Vida, please share how you've been living your cloud nine moments at the White House.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that was about a week ago today that we went to the White House. It was historic. I didn't know it was historic until afterwards. I discovered that I guess it was the first Latino focused film that's ever been screened at the White House, which on the one hand is like so cool, right? But on the other hand is so like, wait, what? Like, how is that possible? But it was beautiful for me. The most incredible thing was being able to experience it with my mom who immigrated here long time ago from Mexico and, had never felt fully loved in this country until that day. And so to be able to bring her to that, for her to sit and watch her daughter's movie that she wrote screened on the South Lawn and to meet the president, it was just like one of the best days of my life. If I'm being completely honest, it was pretty wild. And I have Eva to thank and Elsa Marie Collins and Jess. Like there's a bunch of people who put the event together and I'm just so thankful to them.
Let's talk about the beginning of Flamin Hot. You're the writer. So how do you get involved into this? How does everything come to you to put together?
Yeah, well, the first version came through Devon Franklin and Lewis Collins. So that was brought over to Searchlight many moons ago. And then in 2019, Eva got brought on to direct. I'm sure you've heard the story. She came in with like a wrecking ball with this like amazing presentation and really had a very specific vision for what she wanted the film to be. And so that meant that the script was going to need a huge overhaul. And she often says that the only person she could think of that felt perfect for this to do this was me. And of course, my reaction was like, me? She had read a draft of, I had adapted a book called I'm Not Your Perfect Mexican Daughter, which is also hopefully going to get filmed, that America Ferrera is directing. And she had read The Voice in that and just felt like, I want this person to write, Flaming Hot for me. And so in 2019, she reached out and brought me on board. And it was a beautiful collaboration, being able to hear like what she had in mind. Her vision for it was so specific and it was exciting to me to hear her vision because it was so similar to the things that I wanted to do in my own work. And so coming in, it was really cool and fun, and I got to bring my voice and my special sauce to it. And that was really exciting.
I love how you said your special sauce to it.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that I enjoyed about the film, obviously I'm Mexican.
Yeah.
I'm not Chicana. So I know from Mexico City. My parents brought me since I was 7.
Yeah.
I didn't really get to live that Mexican life experience. My parents brought me to I grew up in a white neighborhood. I kind of somehow blend in. I never experienced that different treatment.
Yeah.
So with projects like yours, like Gentefied also, that's where I started getting an eye-opening about Chicanos. I was kind of late, unfortunately.
It's okay.
But thanks to your programs that you've been involved in, I'm getting an eye-opener. And in this film, I enjoyed the Chicano movement that's integrated in the film. Can you discuss how that concept came up and putting it together?
Honestly, one of the very first things that Eva really wanted in there was the Chicano movement. She wanted to show in the 80s, like how much the economy, the things that came before that historically had affected the way that we function institutionally as Latinos, as Mexican Americans, as, we're not the only Latinos in this country, low-income people, working class people, all being affected by, the economy in the 80s, Reaganomics, all of those things, and the things that led up to that, which included the Chicano rights movement, the Vietnam War. These were all things that were in Richard's life, the things that he experienced as a kid growing up. And the people around him that he loved. And so for us, when she introduced that sequence to me, that thought of creating that sequence, she was like, I want something like this. Is how it is with Eva. It's like, I want something like this. And then I'd go like, okay, hold on. Let me go take all these like pieces and like think about how do we execute this in a way that is going to accomplish that. And for us, it was like, okay, like, how do you show a man who's doing his very best to be good in an environment where everything's pushing you to do anything you can to survive. And oftentimes, as is the case to this day, in order to survive, sometimes you have to do bad things. So then you have good people doing bad things, and it's not because of their own fault. It's because the environment has been created in such a way that, like, what other choice do you have when you're trying to survive? And so, oftentimes we criminalize folks like that. And I think for me and for Eva, Richard is not, he's a good, kind person who just needed an opportunity. And you see that over and over again in the film. And so showing the movement, showing all the different things that he encountered were really ways to show like how any of us could go in any direction, like given making the wrong choice, given the right person who shows up for you, like you never know which direction you can go in. And I completely relate to that. I had a similar story to Richard, and I could have chosen a different direction, but it was the people who showed up for me that made that difference.
And let's talk about bringing together to the screen the Montañez story. There's like a lot of mixed titles out there. Is it the fictional version? This is the real version?
This is Richard's story. So this is the story. I think a lot of people are like, this is the story of a Cheeto. No, it's not. It's the story of a man. It's the story of Richard Montañez and his life and how he became the godfather, the godfather of Latino marketing, which he is and has been, and reached the ranks at the very top at PepsiCo and retired after, I believe it was 30 years, something like that, 40 years. He spent most of his life building and supporting a brand and has been speaking on this for many years. And so for me, getting into his story was about having the conversation with him and Judy and hearing what they experienced from their side and their experiences, what's on the page for me, what's on the screen for me. Of course, with any movie you watch based on a biopic, it's never going to be word for word, like, moment for moment what the person experienced, because ultimately we're not making a documentary, we're making a narrative film based on someone's life. It's not the exact word for word thing, but the essence and a lot of like the very real things they experience are in there. And people are often surprised when I tell them, like, I did a lot of work interviewing them and getting kind of mining for gold with them. And there's lines in there that they literally said to me, like, hey, if you want to succeed in life, get yourself with Judy. Richard said that to me on a phone call. Like, and I was like, how are you not gonna, like, they're like little treasures that Richard and Judy can drop for you, Judy saying like, what I prayed for Richard to see the talents and gifts that he had. I prayed to God for Richard to see the gifts and talents that he had inside of him. She said that to me, that was exactly what she prayed for. So for me, this story is about Richard and Judy and their experiences and what they experienced in this world. And, for every story, there's always going to be many truths. Look at your own life. Like, how many times have you been in a situation where like, well, this is what I experienced and this is what you experienced, right? This is what Richard and Judy experienced. And that's the story that I signed up to tell.
So which one was one of the scenes that you were super excited to finally see getting made and directed?
One of my multiple, there's so many in there, but one of them is the scene where Judy, we see the sequence of them getting older, and then you see Judy run into frame. Like, he's a little cholito, he's running from the police, and then suddenly you're like, and Judy was by my side, you see Judy run in, and she's like a little cholita, she throws the records. Like, that was something I wrote that I was so excited for. And I remember when Eva read it, she was like, oh my God, I love that. And so I know she was excited to shoot that as well. And so to be able to see that, and to hear the audience's reaction every time that happens, people just like burst into excitement. That's how I envisioned the reaction. And I think the other scenes are the Cholo, CEO suite scenes where the executives are talking in Cholo speak. One of the like marching orders was like, how do we make these meetings more interesting and more fun? And like the result was like, how would Richard see this? And it was like, well, he would see it like this. He'd see it like the way that gangsters talk, in the streets. And so that was really fun to write, and it's fun to hear people react to that. And I think the last one, I mean, again, there's so many, but one of the ones that stand out to me, that's one of my favorite lines I wrote, was when his father is tying his tie and he says, I wish I was the man who made you the man that you are today. Because I feel like that one hits really hard for people, and their relationship was one that I worked really hard to craft and really wanted, for folks to walk away understanding that like we can try our best, but still have regrets and still be trying to be the best version of ourselves. Like, not only Richard, his father as well, is also trying to repair and become a better person. And so what does it mean to give second chances, and how part of the regret is accepting, like, yeah, I didn't do this. You are not the person you are today because of me. And so that line, when I wrote that line, I was like, ooh, I love that line because I knew I was gonna like hit people in the heart. And I love to make people cry, as my family always has told me. So like, since you were little, Mia, my mom's like, you love making people cry with your writing, and I'm like, kind of do, yeah.
Hey, that's a superpower.
Thank you, thank
Because
you.
that's an emotion that is really hard to get out of people.
Yeah, I mean, I like people to feel healed. I think it's less about me. I joke I want to make them cry, but I think more than anything, I want people to feel healed. Like I want them to feel like some piece of whatever's broken inside gets healed a little bit in experiencing someone else's life on screen that looks like them, that feels like them. They don't even have to be Mexican. Like, you can still relate to Richard no matter where you are in the world. He's like a regular guy, working class guy who's just trying to do his best. Like, who can't relate to that?
We are all underdogs at some
Yeah,
point of our life.
for real. I 100%. Like, we're underdogs over and over again sometimes.
Thank you for your time. I do want to ask you a question. And if do you have an opinion about the article that came out on the LA Times?
Um, I it's the same with what I said earlier, which is like, I'm telling Richard's story and what he experienced and what Judy experienced. And I think that ultimately, there can be many versions of a story of a truth, and that's, there's some versions in there of a truth that we learn new information and we added it to the movie, but ultimately what Richard experienced and what you see in this film is what I believe to be true in terms of what I experienced with him and sitting down with him and Judy. And just as a fellow person who resonates with his experience, being able to sit with someone and be like, yeah, bro, you went through that. Like, it's hard to describe what like a very just a natural connection with someone, right? And who in our communities haven't gone through experiences of being silenced or overlooked or not credited. Like, we all have so many stories like that. And so, you know, I think ultimately for me, like, it's about what did I sign up to do? And I signed up to tell Richard and Judy's story. And I think we did that. And I think we did it beautifully.
Thank you again for your time. I'm glad this happened. It was like a mission impossible with
I'm
your
sorry, I
busy
know.
schedule.
I got sent off to DC and I didn't expect the whole craziness, but thank you for your patience. This was really fun.
No problem. I mean, that's a once in a lifetime experience. I was watching your social media. I was like, Linda is on her cloud nine right now. Like, let's let her. We'll wait.
I was like, whoa, what is this? This is wild. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
You're welcome. Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you. Have a great day.